Several of our friends climbed the top this morning, and on the bus coming down to the Gulf of Aqaba, shown in the background here, we're stopping for lunch, a swim in the Gulf and in the pool, and then soon we'll be crossing the border into Israel. Most of us made a commitment to wait upon the Lord and renew our strength and mount up like wings upon eagles. The children of Israel took 40 years to get through the desert, and sometimes we've, taken longer to get through our desert of disappointment and shortcoming and the fiery trial. I know it's been true in my case. But in any case, God said, wait upon me and you'll renew your strength, you'll mount up like wings upon eagles, and I won't let you down. And that's what he was saying. That was kind of our theme coming down the mountain today in Joshua chapter 14. Anyway, on another topic, if we look in the background, we see the Gulf of Aqaba. The Gulf of Aqaba is part of an extension and northern portion of the Red Sea. The Red Sea separates Asia from Africa. It's part of the Great Rift Valley. It's the African and European plate from the Asian plate in the jargon of plate tectonics and of geology. And in the distance we can see the mountains of eastern Saudi Arabia. I'm looking at Saudi Arabia right now, and it blends down to the east and lowers in elevation until it finally, 700 miles later, runs into the Persian Gulf. And along the Persian Gulf you have Kuwait, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, etc. And then on the other side, of course, is Iran. So we are in the heart of the Middle East right now on the Red Sea at the Gulf of Aqaba, having a little lunch. It was interesting because the British controlled this territory after the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1918, after World War I. And the British controlled the territory. They controlled Israel, which was at that time Palestine, the Transjordan, and all of the Arabian Peninsula. But because from the end of World War I until the end of World War II, they had a protectorate status, and there was many skirmishes, and they had many problems with the local cultures. And so after World War II, again, British on the winning side with the Allies, the US, Britain, France, etc., said, okay, we're going to give up Saudi Arabian Peninsula. Even Lawrence of Arabia would have agreed to that. We'll go ahead and do that. And we're going to let the most powerful king take over, and that's the Saud family. And now, of course, it's been under the Saud rulership for 60 years, and it's been pretty much a disaster for the people because the Sauds have pumped the oil and saved it all for themselves and bought, $100 million houses in Vale and Aspen, and the poor people are mainly very poor. It's a very strict and fundamentalist approach to Islam, but it's right over there, and we're looking at it right here. A little bit to the north is Jordan, and at that time, the British said after World War II, okay, we'll allow the British mandate to withdraw and Israel to become a country. And so in 1948, Israel became a country. It was called Palestine before that, then it was called Israel. But Israel had to fight for the land because the people that occupied the territory, the Jews hadn't occupied it for 2,000 years, after the Romans ran them out of town after the Great Intifada, or Zealot uprising in 70 AD that wound up with the last battle at Masada, which you're going to be at in about 4 days. So it hasn't been Israel for 2,000 years. They had to fight the local inhabitants, which were the descendants of the Philistines, and they call them today the Palestinians, okay? So Palestine, the Palestinians, they fought. Israel won with the help of the US and the jets from Miramar Naval Air Station, F-14s. Now they're up to the 18s, 16, 17, 18. So a few years later, they were able to take the land and have an uneasy peace with the Palestinians who occupied the territory. And then Jordan was turned into the Transjordan. The British withdrew, and Jordan became a country for the first time, which neighbors Iraq. In the north, the territory that was left by the Ottomans after World War I was Lebanon and Syria. Now those were protectorates of France, and Lebanon was Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East. It was a beautiful country after World War I. There was infighting, and the French then withdrew after World War II and let Lebanon become a country again. It was a famous country, had a historical, tremendous advantage under the Phoenicians, 2500 BC and so forth. The Israelis actually got along with the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians allowed the Israelis to take some of the products from their country and build the temples and build the palaces or whatever. But Cedars of Lebanon came in, for the building of the temple and for the building of the palaces. And they also allowed then, after World War to the creation of Syria. Okay, so that was just east of Lebanon. So in the north was France, British in the south, they withdrew, and that left vacuums, and Israel made the most out of it by defeating their neighbor, and they lived uneasy until 1967 with the Palestinians. They didn't control the West Bank at that time, and then Jordan invaded Israel from the West Bank to try to take all of Jerusalem back with the help of the United States in the '67 war, which took 6 days. Israel not only took all of Jerusalem back, pushed the Jordanians out, but they took all of the West Bank up to the Jordan River. They occupied the Sinai because the Egyptians had run in with artillery, and they also occupied the Golan Heights on the northeastern front with Syria because they were receiving missile deployments and bombings into the kibbutzes of the northern Galilee. So those 3 occupied territories. Now 2 of them have been returned. In 1983, Menachem Begin, the premier of Israel, and Jimmy Carter and Anwar Sadat from Egypt, we're still in Egypt right here, met at Camp David, 1983, and they were able to negotiate a peace so that all of this Sinai that surrounds us here in all directions, except for across the Gulf of Aqaba, was returned to Egypt. Okay, so Israel did make some concessions, and then the Gaza has been given back to the Palestinians, the Philistines. The Israelis never controlled that territory, even from the days of King David when he fought Goliath and Samson and Delilah. That was all down in the Gaza, never controlled it. So they gave them back. Have they given back the West Bank? They will not give back the West Bank under any circumstances because many new Israeli settlements are positioned there. And the idea is possession of the land is 9/10 of the law. So they're putting in as many new Israelis as they can. They're coming in from Russia. They're coming in from South America. They're coming in from Africa. There's a significant African population of Israelis in Ethiopia because when the Queen of Sheba came up to visit Solomon, she gave him monkeys and gold, and he gave her a son, and she went back to Ethiopia, and now you have a population 3,000 years later. That was 1000 BC. Now 2000 AD, there's a large population of black Jews in Ethiopia, and the doors have been opened by Israel for those people to come and populate the West Bank, which is the front lines of their conflict with the Palestinians. So if they get attacked, it's these people that get hit first. And so will they give the West Bank back to Jordan? No. Will they give it back to the Palestinians? Probably not. Will they give back the Gaza? They already have. Is it going to be 2 countries, 1 people? Probably it looks like that in the future. We don't know what the future holds for the Golan Heights with Syria, but in the future it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And so Israel is going to live with these Palestinian populations right inside their borders. But so what? Everybody else has minorities. We've had African Americans, we've had Hispanic Americans, we've had Asian Americans, we've had Native Americans in the United States, and it seems to be working. It's called a melting pot, and you just got to move over a little and allow for diversity.